Hi, guys. I am here today with Carlynn Jones, and she has just such an amazing story to share with you. And Carlynn, thank you for being with us today.
You're welcome.
It's so cool to have you here. And as you guys know, we've had some other stories that people have shared about hard things that they've had to overcome or are still overcoming, much like you are doing every day. And so I met Carlynn a few years ago, and she just touched my heart because of the amazing spirit and strength that she has. And I didn't know anything about her story when we first met. I just knew that this woman was somebody that was incredible, and I needed to know more about her. And so I'm so grateful that you agreed to share your story with us, Carlynn. So tell us a little bit about what's been going on in your life.
Well, to start off, I was actually raised I was a third of six children, and I have a wonderful family, parents that love each other, that love us, and there was an abundance of love always in my life. So that I'm really grateful for. That's never been my challenge. But we did have a really hard thing happen when I was in elementary school, and my dad fell into a really deep, bad depression. And he wasn't able to even get out of bed and go to work. And my mom, with only a high school education, started working a couple of jobs and was gone quite a bit. And not knowing what was happening to me, I was 8 or 9 years old.
Wow.
I started having depression as well and anxiety. And I didn't know what was going on. I just knew I didn't want to go to school. I didn't want to go outside. I didn't want to be with people. I just wanted to sleep. And that was really hard. And then when I was 12, we moved. My dad had found another job, but in the interim, we were staying with my grandma. My grandfather had just passed away weeks before, and so we were spending a few weeks with her until that job was ready. Well, while we were with her, that job fell through.
Oh, man.
And she had a basement apartment, so as soon as that became vacant, we moved in, and there were still 7 of us at home in a 2-bedroom basement apartment with 1 bathroom and a little teeny tiny place.
Wow.
And we lived.
How old were your siblings at that time?
My oldest sister was 18 or 19, and she had moved away.
Mm-hmm.
And then my other sister would have been 15, and then I have 3 younger siblings, and I was 12 at the time. So,
wow.
little.
Yep, still.
And we were there for 6 years in that apartment in my grandmother's house.
Gosh.
And my dad, anyway, he was going through some stuff, but being 12 years old and having puberty hit and hormones and emotions, going to a new school starting junior high was extremely difficult for me. And the depression got so bad, my mom finally took me to a doctor who offered to write a prescription for a homebound teacher for me, which I gladly took because I wouldn't have to leave the house, right? And so for about the middle half of 7th grade, I had a lady that would bring my assignments to me. She'd proctor my exams, and I didn't have to go anywhere. But I knew I couldn't stay there forever. And little by little, I started going back to school. I remember calling home sick a lot and getting picked up early, or maybe going in late. But every year I felt like it was getting better, but it never completely left me. And it would resurface. It was always kind of there, but it would get really bad, I don't know, for weeks at a time or months at a time, even after I was married. And it wasn't until I was married and had 4 kids before that was taken away from me. That challenge was gone. And that was a very sacred experience for me. It was, when I read the account of the woman with the issue of blood in the New Testament who touched Christ's robe and was immediately healed, and she could feel that she was healed, it was like that for me. And, it wasn't like I had never prayed before, but it was in a prayer. I was begging for help, not feeling worthy of the help because, I thought, oh, I should be doing more to help myself. And it just lifted from my shoulders, and it's never come back.
Oh my gosh. So just a miracle.
A miracle, yes. Yeah. And then not even a year later, I was pregnant with our 5th child. I went in for my first appointment, at 3 months. and showed the doctor a little lump that I'd had in my neck, and his face just fell. And after a biopsy went out, I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, which when they say if you're going to have cancer, that's the one to have because it has such a high success rate.
Right.
85% are cured. And so we waited 6 months for that baby to be born, and tumors got bigger and I got weaker, and yeah, and then
was that super scary? Like,
yeah.
wow. Yeah, that's a silly question.
It was terrifying. We did a lot of crying. My younger sister, had Hodgkin's lymphoma when she was 19, just 3 months after she got married. And then she, got through it and had 5 kids, and, so I figured I'd probably be okay, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. Right.
Right.
And of course mine grew bigger because we waited for the baby. And baby was born healthy, and she's 18 now, and she's doing great. But 3 years after I finished my treatment, I was in for a follow-up with my oncologist, and the cancer had come back. So I fell into the 15% that have it come back. And that time treatment had to be different. Right. And we live in Central Washington. I had to move to Seattle for treatment, and I was there, we didn't know for how long. It turned out to be 3.5 months. But
and you had 5 kids. 5
little kids. The oldest was 11, and the youngest was 3.
So your husband Greg had to take over. Did you have help?
Yes. Okay. And that's where, it was not what we wanted to do, but we found a way that God had prepared for us to make it work. There was a lady in our congregation that had just been laid off from her job, and we had some investment money we were able to draw on and hire her to be there with our kids in the afternoons until Greg would get home at night. And she was perfect for our kids. She's just the sweetest woman. And my sister and her husband lived close enough to the University Hospital in the Seattle area that I was able to stay with her instead of, the apartments that they have around the Fred Hutch Center.
Wow.
So that was another great blessing, because I was with family. My family could come over and visit, and just I couldn't name all of the wonderful things that just happened. But that one was a little more scary. The percentages weren't as good.
Okay.
And it was just long and drawn out.
Now, did they have you had blood transfusions? You had
that one was the treatment was a stem cell transplant, but they were able to use my own stem cells. So I don't have the graft versus host disease. Okay. I did go through what they call pseudo graft versus host disease, which is just as bad, but it was short term. It's not for the rest of my life. So anyway, that was 15 years ago this last November. And of course I was left with chronic fatigue, and trying to raise 5 kids. And there are a lot of things we just never did with our kids because I didn't have energy to do it. But little by little, I was able to work up to where I could work out every day. And
this is real life.
Life is life. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. So where was I? Oh, yeah. So I came home from that. Anyway, little by little, I was able to work up and found different answers for different things. Like I learned about compounding hormones because I had to be on hormone replacement, and that helped with my energy. And going through treatment through the chiropractor and rehab helped a lot with that. And I just kept fighting. I just kept fighting, working until I really was gotten into the physical shape that I really wanted to be in, and I was enjoying it, and I could just do things I still had my limits, but I knew what they were. And sometimes I'd push them and then I'd be down for a few days, but then I could get back up. So I still have chronic fatigue, but I've learned how to manage it.
Wow.
And then this last September, it was August, we had a daughter getting married, and a couple of days before the wedding, I kind of had one of my crash moments. I'd probably done too much, but I started having a lot of pain, and I just thought it was back pain. And so I was getting treated, and it wasn't responding well. And my husband said, "This isn't right. Let's not mess around." So I went back to the oncologist, and September 9th, I was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia, Philadelphia chromosome positive. And this is the leukemia that kids get. There's a different leukemia that can be secondary to the treatments that I've had before, but this isn't that. It's something completely new. And the options we were given were either chemo, which would be worse than anything I'd had in the past, which we knew I wouldn't survive. So that wasn't really an option for us,
Right.
or especially medication that addresses the chromosome issue, which won't cure it, but it does give me time, and it's quality time. I feel just about the same as I did before the diagnosis. So that's where I am now, is living happy for as long as I can, which we have no idea how long that will be.
And that was a decision that you made as a family, wasn't it?
It really was. In fact, Greg and I had talked about the possibility, it wasn't something we liked to talk about, but it came up, in the past 15 years a few times. And, you can't decide till you get there.
Right.
But the odds that my doctor gave us were not good for that kind of treatment. And we both felt very strongly that if I went through that chemo, it would only kill me faster and I'd be miserable. So when we shared all that with our children, it was bittersweet to have them say, yeah, Mom, we don't want you sick again. We don't want you to go through that again.
Right.
So everybody's at peace with this. And we're just doing our best to enjoy it.
I think that peace too is like truly a miracle, because I'm sure you have times when it gets, maybe you don't, where it gets a little overwhelming if you think about it.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah. But that peace is something that's just such a gift to be able to have that.
It is a gift. And I do. We have our moments, and sometimes we just sit and cry. And we sit and plan and we talk. And I mean, we've had conversations before. We've had to face the possibility of me dying before. But really, there's so much gratitude. So much gratitude, because we've been given so much more than we thought we were going to have. I got to see all my kids raised to adulthood. I have 2 beautiful grandbabies. Little bummed I won't get to see them grow up, and be part of their lives and the rest of them. But we have the promise and the assurance that we'll be together again. We'll be a family forever. And that's the greatest peace.
That's so amazing. And I've seen actually some posts that your daughters have put on Facebook, and especially when the diagnosis came out, and just, I am in awe of the strength that they have. And I think that's something that you have passed along to them. You've come through a lot of adversity. Do you think that it's more than others, or do you think, tell me what your thoughts on that are? Do you ever sit there and go, really?
I look at what I've gone through, and I think, that was hard, but no, I don't think it's any more than anybody else goes through. I think everybody has the challenge that is the greatest for them. And I really believe firmly that there's a reason for that God is giving us an opportunity to turn to Him and to rely on Him, because it's only through Jesus Christ that we can be saved, that we can be with our Heavenly Father again. And if we don't learn to rely on Him and accept what He's given us, we miss that. And I actually, in my scriptures this morning, I read about the straight and narrow gate. The straight is the gate and narrow is the way. And years ago, I looked up the definition, because straight is S-T-R-A-I-T. So it's not like not curved, it's straight. And there are 2 definitions, and one is that a narrow passage of water, but another definition is a position of difficulty, distress, or need. And that has a lot of meaning to me, that straight is the gate and few there are that find it, because you have to go a position of difficulty, distress, or need. Like dire straits, you're in dire straits.
Wow.
But I think it helps my perspective to realize that there's purpose behind our challenges and there's purpose behind suffering, but there's also, I believe it's possible to feel peace and to feel joy no matter what's going on in your life or what's missing in your life. You can
Yeah.
still have peace and joy.
Wow. That's such an incredible testimony of strength. And what do you think has been what do you feel like you've gained the most out of going through the struggles that you've had?
I think the thing that there's the most, I've just learned to trust God. I just trust him. And it took me a while. Those first 2 times going through cancer, it was really hard for me to trust him. I wanted what I wanted. And the days that that's all I could think about, I was miserable. But the days that I could pray and say, just help me accept your will, I was at peace.
Wow.
And I've been able to apply that in all kinds of things. We've had financial challenges that have been exceptionally terrifying for us. But because I've learned to have that kind of faith, I overcame the fear and we just worked through it. So
Wow. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Yeah, and I know I've talked with Greg, and I've he just so you guys know, Greg is a chiropractor, and he has a fantastic business, and Carlynn has been an integral part of that business as well. And together they've been able to change and affect so many lives. And he continues to do what he does, and he will tell you that it's through God as well that he's able to keep going the way he's going and have that faith. And
especially now.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. Is there anything that you would like to tell somebody who might be going through something similar? Everybody's is totally different, but maybe somebody who's going through any type of struggle. What is some advice that you would like to leave them with?
Well, maybe this is still back to that other question, but I feel like our challenges are all different, but the test is the same. What are we going to do with the challenge? Who are we going to turn to? Where will our focus be? And I know that by focusing on Jesus Christ and God's plan for us, that's where when your focus is there, you're just stronger and you can be happy. Like I said, you can be happy no matter what's going on. And just believe that God has a plan for you. A plan for you as an individual, as his child. And if you don't believe that, just try and just ask him. He'll let you know.
To believe. Hope. Yeah, little right?
Yeah, it starts out small. I grew up with strong faith, but it was challenged. But because of that challenge, it's grown. And it's not a question for me anymore. It's not, well, I think, or I believe, or I hope. It's I know.
And what an powerful assurance that is. And I could feel that power as you said that Carlynn. So, oh man, thank you. Thank you so much for being willing to share and open your heart. And I know that some of you guys are out there and you're struggling, and you always have your Savior and your Heavenly Father to turn to. And there are angels around you all the time. And, we're here to help and support each other and to share each other's stories. So if any of you would have a story that you would like to share, let us know. there'll be a link at the bottom where it will take you to our website that says share your story, or if you want to just go directly to our website, it's trevega.com, and there's a link that says share your story, and you just share your email and just a brief description of your story, because I know as we share our stories that it strengthens each other and it gives each other hope that we can do what we need to do and we can be who we were sent here to be, and just enjoy life, have joy in life, and have peace and have strength. So
Absolutely.
thanks, Carlynn. We love you.
Thanks, Jacine.